Hey, today this video is going to be about taking your real estate company and creating standard operating procedures, SOPs, so that way you can map out your processes, create your SOPs, and systematize your business. So one of the most famous people to talk about this is Michael Gerber. He is the author of The E-Myth. Great book. I've read that thing many years ago. So that was one of the things that helped me the most in my real estate business. As soon as I was able to understand like what the point of these are, because a lot of people think that this is something you're going to create and then you're just going to put them in a file cabinet somewhere. And that is the opposite of what these are. These are documents, videos, trainings, checklists, everything that is needed to onboard and train virtual assistants or employees on how to like actually run your business or just take care of roles within your business. So the first thing that I did was map out processes. So I needed to know, like for each job role, what all the different tasks were that a person would have to do. And then once I had all that mapped out, it wasn't that big of a deal to start to put together my SOPs. Now, if you try to bring on a virtual assistant or an employee, it's going to be the same process. If you don't have all of this stuff mapped out for them, they are going to be so lost. And then it's going to be very difficult for you to try and get anything done. So that's why I always recommend to everybody, make sure that you have your SOP done before you even try to onboard someone and then have them come on and work full time. It's going to make their life so much easier and it's going to make your life easier. So we talked about Michael Gerber. He's like the most famous author that I know of. The most famous business that became well known for like how systematized they are is going to be McDonald's. So think about how McDonald's works. Their business model requires them to bring on very young people. So like high school kids, college kids, that's the main worker that they're looking for. And so it makes it very easy when you can bring on someone with no experience and sometimes zero experience, any kind of work at all. So then is all you got to do is have them sit down, watch the training videos. Then they've got the documents that they can read through, some of them simple checklists. Walmart, McDonald's, all these companies have things that look like bullet points, simple checklists, so that way the workers can learn and they can learn very efficiently and quickly. Because that way you can get everybody up to speed really quick and it costs you less during your training. So I had known about how famous McDonald's was and everything, and then actually you can even look up some of their SOPs freely if you Google it too. And that's something that is like, it's pretty cool to be able to see that. I've only ever had one job, so I've never done fast food or anything like that. I had never seen SOP documents or anything. So even when like you read books about it, it's very difficult. That's why in our program, we actually like walk through what they look like, how you discover which ones you should be writing for yourself, and then like how to draft them so that they're actually usable. The worst thing that you can do is make an SOP that is not something that you're going to use all the time, because it really is. And in fact, we even have to update them. If something changes, we'll have to make another video or something to just put in there. Very easy. It sounds really complicated, but it really is as simple as just being training videos, the documents that someone might need to look through and read in order to know how to do a task. It can also be checklist. So for our data manager, we actually mapped out the process overview. So he's got that. And then we were able to create the SOPs for each little task that he had to do. And then it becomes this living, breathing document that you can always change and update, and then just create video trainings around. It's actually way easier for me to create videos around stuff because it's so easy to do. using either Zoom or Loom to do it. I like both of those pieces of software. Now, so the only job that I ever had, I think they do about $8.5 billion a year. And when I got to see the SOPs for that company, it was like unbelievable. I mean, they have, I could only imagine, I mean, it is thousands of pages because of how many different roles that they had to fill there. It was trucking, food, warehousing. It was, everything from like client success, delivery. It was unbelievable the amount of different systems that they had to run that place. And I don't know how many employees they have. It's in the thousands. And especially with it being that large, it is a privately held company. It's not on the stock exchange or anything. That was super cool being able to see that. I cannot even imagine the man hours that it took across the company to create that, and then to also keep it updated. Like for instance, with the trucking part, if you get a new truck, now they had to update their SOPs for that. But it all sounds very complicated. I understand that. But is what you got to remember is you don't try to create them all at once. You're just going to look at who you're going to be hiring or actually needing to hire. And then once you've identified that role, now is all it is just mapping out what all they need to do. And then it is just taking the little baby steps along the way to create each little mini document, or just creating training while you're screen sharing or something like that. It's really not that big of a deal. Only when you look at it as a whole and all of that kind of stuff, or if you're needing to hire 3 or 4 different roles all at once, that's when it becomes more difficult. That's why it's so important to just look at it like, what do I just need to get done at the moment, so you don't get overwhelmed. It's very easy to do. So I recommend you think through what type of person could help you the most for where you are right now. It could be a generalist virtual assistant. It could be someone to handle cold outreach, or it could be somebody to scrub your data. And like the people that I help are all in the real estate niche. They're either house wholesalers, or could be house flippers, could be land flippers, anything really to do with real estate to where they're doing active deals. Not so much landlords. For the most part, they don't really need virtual assistants. That's just more of like held investments. So anybody that needs virtual assistance is the type of person that I would help. And it's really like extremely important to do it. It's really not that terribly complicated. And almost always when I hear people talk about how they've had virtual assistants and it didn't work out, like you can read about that stuff all over the place. And you hear stories about people like, yeah, I hired this virtual assistant, but it didn't work out. Well, I always question like, well, did you interview them correctly and all that stuff? Did you give them a test task to complete and see how they did? But aside from those things right there, a lot of the time that the virtual assistants are not successful in the role they were just hired to do, it's because they weren't onboarded properly, or even at all. Sometimes I hear about business owners finding a virtual assistant, so they were totally alone, then they hired one person, there was no onboarding at all, and basically they were like, yeah, I was pretty lost, I didn't actually know what I was doing. And it's like, you got to also look at it from the person they just hired's perspective. Like, it was a real struggle for them as well, especially if you weren't giving them meetings and things like that to help them. But the best thing you can do is have a really great onboarding process where they know all of the expectations of their role, so that way it allows them to relax and see exactly what's going on, and to also give them meetings and stuff. That helps tremendously. You always got to have clear communication. And the other thing is just making sure that your SOP is created, just simply the system in which you can run your business by. So a lot of the examples that I hear is, could you go on vacation for 4 weeks and then come back to your business and it still be running? Now, that is a business that is definitely a real business. It's got SOPs, but then it's got multiple workers in it. Now, that's not always what we're talking about. A lot of the people that I help, they have absolutely no one helping them. They're just a lot of times one person, or maybe it's a husband and wife or something like that, and they're looking to try to systematize the business so that way it feels like a real business. Meaning if they don't show up, there are things that are still getting done. And also, if they don't show up, their virtual assistants know how and where to go to get the answers, which is going to be the SOP, or it's just going to, which just means it's a document somewhere they can look at. It can be a video that they review and things like that. And so it helps them to not need you. I've got a data analyst, little department within our real estate company, and that team, they know like what to do, and then all I've got to do is weekly meetings with them. So that way it's like, imagine you've got people that are working 40 hours a week, and really the only time that they need you is when they're going to submit your work. They want you to review it, but then they can also hop into a meeting, show you what they did during the week. If you've got feedback for them, like I do sometimes, I'll give that feedback to them. They then update their work, correct it, and then it's like, it's all good. All I got to do then is just pay them. And it's like, think about it from their perspective. They weren't micromanaged. They got to work on all of their own schedule. They got to work at their own pace. They had their questions answered if and when they had them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm totally there to support them any way I can. And in fact, that's like my main job, is just to make sure that my workers are all taken care of. And so that way they have a good work-life balance. You know, I try not to ever do the micromanaging thing. I try to just talk to them and offer them help anytime they need it. So if you're a solo person, that's in the real estate niche, I would seriously recommend just taking the time to actually work on your business instead of just doing all the little busy work yourself. It's like, I get it in the short term. Yes, it does take work. That's what everybody always is hesitant about. They're like, well, this is going to be really hard. And it's like, well, yeah, but isn't it really hard to do all of the busy work for months or years without being able to just like get the busy work done? You can get it done at a very reasonable cost. Like a lot of times virtual assistants, they might cost anywhere from $2 to $10 an hour. And full transparency, I am not a recruiting company. So like, I don't recruit people and then have my clients sign a contract, stuff like that. I actually just work with clients in order to like get all of the systems set up in their business, and then they can do this, because it's really not hard at all to hire people once you know how the whole system works. And so if you're in the real estate niche and you're looking to like implement like SOPs, processes into your company so that way you can hire a virtual assistant in order to get rid of all that busy work, so that way you don't have to do the tasks that are $2 or $5 or even $10 an hour. It is life-changing when you can like have a few minutes to breathe, and then you can work on your business, or you can go and actually see your family, be home at dinner. It is an amazing thing. You really should watch the video that I've got in the description. It walks you through the entire process from start to finish of like what it takes to bring on a virtual assistant or even multiple virtual assistants. And you should seriously watch it. Follow me for more. You can also follow me on like Instagram, subscribe here on YouTube, links in the description. I really do hope that you watch it, and I think that you'll get a ton of value out of it. So thank you.